The next thing we're going to talk about are formatting verbs. And formatting verbs are going to allow us to format something when we print it. So we were already looking at the package funct, but if we look at the description of package funct, we see that it says package funct implements formatted I/O with functions analogous to C's printf and scanf. The format verbs are derived from C's, but are simpler. Well, if you don't have a background in C programming, that might seem a little foreign to you. But what this is saying is that formatted I/O, we have formatted input and output. And so if we have something coming in or something going out, we can use the format verbs here in package funct to format how that data is coming in or going out. And we do that with functions similar to printf and scanf. And that F there, those F's right there, stands for scan with formatting, and that would format something coming through input, or print with formatting, and that would format something going to output. And if you look at the terminal, we've already run a couple of programs using printline. And so we've seen how printline works, and this will print a statement to the terminal to standard out, and it will put a new line return after whatever is printed. So here we see we have a variable x, and the value is 42. When we print that, we get 42 and then that new line afterwards. And I just want to reiterate one more time, if you ever see code with just printline x without the funct package prefix in front of it, now that using just printline x is a deprecated way, an older version of Go, and it's no longer the supported idiomatic way of writing Go code. So you want to use format printline. But you might have noticed when you're working in your editor, as you type format printline, other suggestions, code completion suggestions might have arisen. And you might have seen some code completion suggestions like these. So here we have printf, and then we also have fprintf, and then we also have sprintf. Now the difference between these is that some of them have a prefix, like these have the prefix f, and that has the prefix s, and they all have a suffix, and here's the suffix f on all those. Well, the suffix here on the end says that f means we are going to format whatever we're doing. The prefix here, with just no prefix, with just printf, that means, hey, I'm going to print this to my terminal, to standard out, to the screen. With an f, it's going to print to a file, and with an s, it will print to a string. Why, you might be asking, would we want to print something to a string? If we're inside a program and we want to take a string and format that string and then save it to another string, we could sprintf the string, the original string, and then it changes the string and we could save it to a new one. So we'll see how to use sprintf in a later video. But right now let's look at printf, and we can see the signature here. It's going to take a format string, and it's also going to take an interface. Well, this format string can also be referred to as a format verb, as we already saw. But now let's take a look at the printf in action. And we can see here we have format printf, funct printf, and we're saying %d. Now where did I learn about that %d? What that %d does is it will print out the decimal value of whatever I'm trying to print. So if this is an int, it'll print out just the decimal of the int, which is 42. And you'll notice there's no new line character. This isn't print line, so we don't get a new line. I just get my new prompt right after my variable, so that looks a little bit of fun, a little funny. But the question I'm curious about is, where did I learn about the %d? And we can see that here again in the documentation for the funct package. And we have godoc.org, funct, and we have a bunch of different formatting verbs. And you can see they're called verbs right here, and it tells you what verb to use and what that verb will do. So we just looked at the %d formatting verb, which gives us base 10 notation. And there's also the %b formatting verb, which gives us base 2 or binary notation. And then there's %lowercase x and also %uppercase x, which gives us base 16 or hexadecimal notation. And then finally there's %t. Capital T will give us the type. So it provides reflection so we can see what type the variable is which we're trying to print. So let's take a look at each of those in action. Here we have funct printf, %d, and we are escaping a new line here. So we have an escape character right there, and it's the n, and it gives us the new line. So that's a nice way to get the new line, but we're printing out the decimal. That's what the %d does. And then here we have %b, which prints out the binary representation of 42. And we'll cover how this all works in the next video, how binary works. So we'll see how that string of ones and zeros right there translates to 42. And here we have 42 printed out as hexadecimal, so %x, and then a new line character prints out as hexadecimal. And then the last one is %x with a pound in front of it, and that gives us the 0x notation if you want that to print. And then finally we have %t, which shows us the type of x, and that is an int. So that's a short example of how you use printing verbs and how you also look them up so that you could gain a little bit more control over what you're producing, whether it's going input or output.